Now today I'm going to be making a beef casserole with dumplings. Now it's a nice simple recipe because everything goes into one pot. You place it in the oven and cook it until the meat's gone wonderfully tender. So nice and simple, really tasty. Give it a go. So first of all, I'm just going to go through the ingredients for making the casserole, and then I'm going to go through the ingredients for making the dumplings. Now for making the casserole, I've got all the ingredients laid out. Now what I've got is just over 1 kilogram of stewing beef. Now that's a really beautiful piece of meat. Go down your butchers and buy that. Now what I'm going to do with mine is to chop it into nice chunky pieces. So pieces about 2 inches by 2 inches. So, you know, 50 mil square if you like. Nice chunky bits, but when they're cooked long and slow, they just melt in your mouth. Now I've also got 3 oxtails. Now I like to use that in casseroles and stews sometimes because the bone just gives it a wonderful flavour. And if someone prefers that, they can have that instead of the beef, pieces. Now what I'm going to do is dust that all off in some flour. So I've got 50 grams of plain flour, a teaspoon of salt and a teaspoon of freshly ground black pepper. So that all gets dusted off and then pop it in the pot. Vegetable wise, now obviously you can mix and match what you want to use, but I've got about 400 grams of swede. Now what I'm going to do with the swede is just again chop it into chunky-ish pieces. Then I've got some carrots. Now the ones I've chosen to use are these ones, which are chantenay carrots. They're lovely sweet carrots. If you haven't got chantenay carrots, don't worry, you can just use any carrots you've got, wash them and then just chop them into chunky pieces. Now I've got some shallots. I've got 250 grams of shallots. Just peel those, again pop them in the pot. If you haven't got shallots, don't worry, you could use small onions, or if you've got bigger onions, just chop them out a little bit into chunky pieces. Then I've got some fresh herbs. Now if you haven't got fresh, you can obviously use dried herbs. Now for fresh herbs, I've got 1 sprig of rosemary, I've got a little bunch of fresh thyme, and I've also got some fresh sage. So as I say, if you haven't got fresh, use dried. Now I'm just going to tie those together, add them in the pot, and then that's going to give this whole casserole a wonderful flavour. Now for the liquid, I'm going to be using pale ale. I've got Cornish pale ale, but obviously you can use what you can get hold of. My bottle's about 500 ml. I've got a spare bottle in case I need a little bit more, but you do want enough liquid to cover everything. So apart from that, got a little bit of extra salt and pepper seasoning in case we need to add a little bit more. So I'm going to clear all these ingredients out the way, and then I'm going to show you the ingredients for making the dumplings. So I'm just going to go through the ingredients for making these dumplings. Now I've got 75 grams of shredded beef suet, 175 grams of self-raising flour, 1 heaped teaspoon. Now a teaspoon's that small spoon that you use for putting sugar in your cups of tea, but 1 heaped teaspoon of mustard powder, and then 2 teaspoons of mustard. I'm going to use whole grain mustard. Now I've also got some fresh chives, chop those up nice and fine, add them in the mix with a little bit of salt and pepper seasoning, and that all comes together and makes really scrummy dumplings to go in this casserole. So nice and simple. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to the hob, because we're initially just going to start cooking it all on the hob, and I'm going to get everything prepared, get on with the cooking. So I've come over to the hob and I've got everything prepared so we can enjoy the cooking. Now I'm going to start off with the plain flour and the salt, and then we've got the freshly ground black pepper. Now just give that a quick mix up, and then what I'm going to do is just start by putting the pieces of beef in there, rolling it around in the flour until we get it all nicely covered. So I'll just carry on doing that with all the pieces of beef. So I've got all the beef and the oxtails all dusted off in that flour. It's seasoned flour, remember. Now what we're going to do is get on with the cooking. So I'm going to get on with the cooking, so switch the heat on. I would say you want it on about medium to medium high. And what I'm going to do is just put some oil in there. Because what we're going to do is start off by browning the meat off. Now mine's just come up to heat. Now I'm going to start with these oxtails, so just going to place those in there like that. Going to put some of the chunky bits of beef in there. Now you're probably going to need to do this in 2 batches. You don't want to overcrowd the pan. What you want to do is get a nice bit of colour on the piece of meat so it looks good when you serve it up. So let's let those cook away, and what we're going to do is just turn them over and try and build a colour all the way round, all over the oxtail, so it looks absolutely scrummy. Now I just took some of the beef pieces out because I've got a really nice colour on those. With the oxtails, I'm just going to leave them a little bit longer because obviously they're a bit bigger. I want to get the colour on there. I just put a little bit more oil in and put some more pieces of the beef in there. So what I'm going to do is carry on until we've got everything nicely browned off, and then we can, you know, add the rest of the ingredients. Now with the pieces of beef, I'll brown those off, lovely, all the way round, and these oxtails. And they were the ones I did earlier. So we can pour those all back in the pot. I've still got the heat on, about a medium heat at the moment. So I'm just pushing those down a little bit, because what we're going to do now is to start adding the rest of the ingredients. So just move that over there. Now we've got the shallots, the carrots. Just going to put those in whole. And then we've got the swede. Try to just tuck that around where you can. Got me little herbs. Now what we do need to do is to season this. So again, I'm going to put some extra salt and pepper, and then we can go straight in with the pale ale. Do need to season it quite well. I know the meat's been seasoned, but definitely needs a bit extra. And again, some black pepper, freshly ground black pepper. Like that. Let's open the pale ale. Turn this up a little bit. Now, I said 500 ml. I'm going to use a little bit more because I do want to cover the meat. So that's why I had a second bottle, just in case. Always have a second one because you never exactly know, but in fact, I'm just going to use that. So I actually used 2 bottles of the pale ale, you know, because I want to make sure the meat is nicely covered. Now we're going to put a lid on there, let it come to a simmer. Now what you can do in the meantime is to switch your oven on and get that preheated, because all the cooking time, apart from this little bit, is going to be done in the oven. Now with the casserole, mine's just come up to a simmer and the oven is preheated. So I'm going to place that in the preheated oven. So I'm just going to place my casserole in the preheated oven. So just carefully pop that in. Make sure the lid's on nice and tight. Now I've got my oven set, preheated at 140 degrees Celsius, which is 275 degrees Fahrenheit, gas mark 1. Now cook time, you really want to cook for a few hours until really the meat has gone beautifully tender. And what I would say is halfway through, just give it all a bit of a move around, a gentle stir, and make sure it's all nicely cooking. So I would estimate about 3 hours, or really until the meat is wonderfully tender. Now with the casserole, I've had that cooking for quite a while, a few hours or so. Now what I'm going to do is make up the dumplings. Now for that, I'm going to use a sieve, because you need to sieve this. Get a little bit of air in there. And also, I've got the mustard powder, put that in as well. So just kind of gently tap that through until it's all gone through. The idea is to get a little bit of air in there, so do that. Last bit of mustard powder. Now I'm going to add some salt. You do need to season this. Freshly ground black pepper. Lovely. And then we've got the chives, which we chopped up nice and fine, and the beef suet. And then we can put the whole grain mustard, And I've got some water there that I didn't mention at the very beginning of the, ingredients, but you do need a little bit of water to kind of bring it together. You might need a little bit more, but let's see how it goes. And what you want to do is just mix this around. So if you need a little bit more water, you can. And you want to bring these into nice little dumplings. I think I'm going to add a little bit more water. All right. See how we go. Just sort of mix it around. And we're going to make these into lovely dumplings, and they're going to taste absolutely delicious. A little bit more water. I'll pour that in. So I've probably got about 4 tablespoons of that. Make sure you got enough to kind of bind it all together, really. So mix that around. Now I'm using a spoon, but in a minute I'm going to use my hands and I'm going to make them into little balls, and that's going to be added into the casserole. Now I'm just going to use my hands now. It's a little bit moist, so I'm just kind of bringing it together. Make sure you use enough water so it all binds together, but let's grab some of that, and really just want to make it into nice little balls. That will do. There's one. Beautiful. And then we can put that on top of the casserole. So I'm going to make them about, I don't know, golf ball sizes if you play golf. So there we go. Beautiful. Let's carry on and do the rest.
So now I've made up the dumplings. Now I've had my casserole cooking for just about 3.5 hours, so the meat is nice and tender. I did check it. Now what I'm going to do is pull it out, take the lid off, and I'm going to add the dumplings just on the top of it. And what I'm going to do is place them back in the oven. This time though, what we're going to do is leave it uncovered, and I'm going to turn the temperature up to 200 degrees Celsius, which is 400 degrees Fahrenheit, gas mark 6. And what you really want to do is cook for about another 20-30 minutes just to get a nice colour on dumplings, and then we can serve it all up and enjoy.
Oh, look at that, beautiful. Now I'm going to take this out and enjoy. So I've just served up some of that casserole. Let's go for the meat. Look at that, beautiful and soft. You've got to cook this long and slow, but make sure your meat is beautifully soft. Look at that, absolutely wonderful. Let me just try that. That is melt in your mouth, absolutely delicious. And here we've got this dumpling. Look at that dumpling. Goes so well with casseroles or stews. Okay, let's try that. Gorgeous. Try and get it a little bit browned on top, like I have. Cook it in the juices at the end, because we cooked this casserole for 3.5 hours. Then we took the lid off and cooked it with the dumplings on top, a little bit higher temperature, for another half an hour. So overall, the casserole's had 4 hours. The meat's beautiful, and it goes so well with these dumplings. And obviously you can mix and match what kind of veg you put in. And we haven't got any potatoes in here, so you could serve it nice bit of bread. Entirely up to you. But that is a gorgeous dinner, real good comfort food. So, you know, if it's cold where you are, go and make this. It's really something to come home to. Nice hearty meal, and it tastes beautiful. Thanks for watching my videos. I'll see you on the next one. Don't forget the ratings, and if you haven't subscribed, why not subscribe and ring the bell? Leave the comments. I'll see you again soon. The original Naked Chef.